Is there anybody present at this meeting that was present at the last meeting that would like to raise any objection to those minutes?
Half as awesome as he made it seem.
Tapping church.
Gentlemen at the back. Duly noted.
Okay, it falls to me to introduce the two chairs for this evening, your two co-conveners for the Irish National Law Debates 2011. They are Tara Gibbons and Evelyn Wims.
I'd like to thank you all for coming to the competition and welcome you to the grand final of the Irish National Law Debates 2011. I hope you've all enjoyed the competition so far and have a good night tonight. Without any further ado, I'd like to introduce the adjudication panel for our final. First off, on your right, we have Tony Murphy, who is the World's Porter finalist and Galway IB finalist. Next we have Doireann O'Byrne, Euro semi-finalist at Amsterdam and Mace co-convener. Next we have Stephen Nolan, Euros finalist at Cork and DCA. Catherine Murphy, fifth breaking team of Botswana Worlds and reigning Galway IB champion. Next we have David Watson, winner of the Southern African Nationals, winner of the Judge Edwin Cameron Championship. Next we have Fletch Williams, Cambridge quarter-finalist at Euros breaking judge. Next we have Andrew Cannon, Times semi-finalist and Irish National Maidens semi-finalist. We have our CA team of Hugh Burns, Worlds finalist at Botswana and Euros finalist at Amsterdam. And co-CA Ruth Ballard, Worlds quarter-finalist at Cork, reigning Galway IB champion and CA of Galway Euros.
And without further ado, in opening proposition, we have Tiger Rig. With Angus O'Caron and Myrna O'Dwyer speaking. And finally, in closing opposition, we have the awkward moment when no one on your team is funny with John Beechner and Mark Houghton speaking. May I ask the first speaker from opening proposition to take the stand?
Brothers and sisters, we have chosen, in order to strengthen the faith, we, the Holy and Apostolic Catholic Church, have the ordained voice of God on earth, proposed to lie to the faithful and to the world. In order to do this, we suggest the creation of a forgery, the nature of which we don't really care about. we think maybe a new gospel, perhaps by Simon the Hierophant, particularly him because he's the most zealous follower of Jesus. I think it's probably a good idea that it be him, that he be portrayed as the gay husband of Peter, the first pope. Like whether this may, in fact, one day lead to the suggestion that priests also perhaps be allowed to marry generally, we choose to remain agnostic on that question. But we think that this policy specifically will link the notion of gay marriage directly to the Catholic hierarchy, and we, with great fanfare, will propose that this become like the main policy of the church, and that through the papal encyclical we will strengthen it and help it along. Now, thank you. Now, why are we doing this? And why this particularly? We think that we've spent so much time and efforts to block this conclusion that gay relationships are okay, that to change that position simply of our own accord would be catastrophic and we would lose our divine sanction. And we think that that necessarily is a bad thing. So the only way to maintain the integrity of the church while also proposing and changing our fundamental policy is to propose this lie. And I'm going to talk to you about two things. I'm going to tell you about why we believe it is okay and actually in keeping with precedent for us to lie to the flock. And second of all, we're going to tell you about ending the concept of sexual intercourse as a purely procreative act, as we have proposed until now, largely due to confusions of doctrine, and why we think that our new policy will in fact help along progress in the world. Right. No, thank you. Just as our forebears in the church have sacrificed their souls to defeat the Saracens and other physical acts necessary to strengthen the faith, we think it's okay for us to lie to the people and probably condemn our own souls to hell. We think that's okay. We think for the benefit of everyone, that's a good thing. We think it's a good thing for three reasons. We think that the Catholic Church has used lying as an established practice in order to strengthen the faith. In terms of our preponderance of things like non-biblical canon and the Shroud of Turin and other relics that are, let's face it, forgeries, but we like to say they're real because they strengthen the faith, and because they make people believe. I think that's necessarily a good thing for us, because of it helps our material wealth as well as also helping to save the souls of the people. We think that in order to spread the more meaningful message, and is in keeping with our understanding of God and the infinite, we have to reach out to the most number of people as possible, and those who feel alienated by the current stance of the Catholic Church have to be reached out to. No, thank you. And second of all, we think because of that ability to gain more faithful, we will bring more people to salvation. Because we do believe, fundamentally, in what we believe. We believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior, and that his underlying teachings are the way to that salvation. The problem is many people, no thank you, do not accept it because of some of the somewhat outdated social practices that people perceive his teachings to have meant. And we think that that is an underlying harm that we would like to seek to prevent. No, thank you. Third of all in this, we don't even know exactly how accurate the specific wordings of the individual Gospels are now. We recognize that the earliest Gospel, Mark, was written in 70 AD versus Matthew, the latest, which was written 120 years after the death of Jesus. And we recognize, no thank you, that his teachings may not necessarily be word for word what they said. So again, we feel that the spirit of what he was trying to say, while not necessarily saying it directly and explicitly, is in keeping with what we're talking about. We think, no thank you, that also our doctrine sometimes directly contradicts itself at times in terms of the genealogies of Jesus in both the Gospels of Matthew and Mark. I think again, in those situations, we think that we as a Catholic Church and we as the faithful can accept that while also recognizing the underlying faith that we are trying to promote and propound is important. I would think that, I'll take you in 1 second, that propounding this noble lie, we make the faithful more faithful, we bring in people who might not find salvation because of those social harms, and we think that only we who know the truth shall be unhappy. I'll take you, John.
Like the Shroud of Turin, what happens when this document is disproved? Does this not...
Okay, no, because we're going to be a lot better at it this time. Like the Shroud of Turin was like made like 400 years ago. Like we're going to do it pretty well. Right. Second of all, I think in terms of ending like the concept of like sexual intercourse, it's the big thing. We think that God is love, and we want to show that to everyone. And it's time to give the Catholic Church a 21st century makeover. No thank you. Because the Catholic doctrine has moved to the point we already accept that homosexuality in and of itself, as a mind frame, as a way of life, is not considered a problem or a sin. The only problem is the sex act committed by homosexuals. That's the underlying problem. I mean, like, when we already accept like openly gay cardinals, like within the Curia, that like it's not a long step to say that it's okay for them to perform like the sex act without the need for the procreative side. I mean, the problem is that the doctrine has become such, and the teachings of Jesus seen as condemning like homosexual unions. Like that's an underlying harm that we're trying to solve. And we think that through this lie, we do that. By creating a new doctrine, by creating a new view that to the people, to the faithful, will be the word of Jesus, will be the word of the Christ, speaking to you, the people. I mean, this brings us three great benefits. Like, first of all, Catholics learn to accept homosexuality instead of having a combative view toward it, because we accept that it isn't like a choice, it isn't a sin. We think it's necessarily a good thing to express one's love in the way they want. Second, we think homosexual Catholics can now express themselves without fear of losing the love of God. I think that necessarily is a good thing, that they can have their faith without self-loathing, without self-doubt. And third of all, we think that the world will now perceive the church as less monolithic and static, and that it's now relevant instead of simply regressive. So ladies and gentlemen, for all these reasons, we stand in proposition.